Well, hey guys, it's Drake63. Thanks for joining me today. You know, it's been a long time since I've been like really excited about a firearm that I've picked up. This right here really gets me going. This is the SIG 556. This is the ER model. Came out 2006, 2007, based on serial dating. I believe this one is somewhere in the neighborhood of 2008. And what has me so excited about it is it shoots 5.56, and as you're going to see a little bit later, every bit as accurately as any AR I've ever owned. Now I'm not talking match barrels and stuff like that. I'm talking about carbine length barrels, if not a little bit shorter, and things like that. But this is just an absolutely cool gas piston operated side charging 5.56 firearm. It's designed after the SIG 550, which is still in use. Some differences though. It's got the carbine length barrel, 16 inches. You can get versions of this that have a shorter gas system, so you see them with a longer barrel. This would be more like a mid-length gas system, but it's piston driven and it's side charging, as you can see. And really cool stuff. And most of the stuff I don't like about the AR, forward assist being first and foremost as an unnecessary feature. You don't have that here. What you do have is an ambidextrous safety. The mag release works exactly like an AR, and it takes AR mags, which is great because I've got a bunch of them. And I thought it was kind of cool. Why not just go ahead and top this one with a Sig Sauer red dot? Kind of makes sense, keep it in the family. And this is the Romeo 5. I may do a separate review about this at some point. I have had a lot of good luck with Primary Arms, Holosons, and some of the other ones that fall into the quote-unquote budget range. I've also had stuff like Trigicons and aim points and stuff like that. So, you know, really, is that the way to go? Spend $600, $800, $900 on a red dot? In my experience, especially something like this one that's been rated as extremely durable. I'm kind of shying away from that stuff these days. You know, I'm not going to be in a bomb explosion and everything is blown up, including me and the rifle, except for the red dot. So, talk briefly about the Sig Sauer Romeo 5. It's a 2 OA red dot. It's got the automatic on-off feature, which means you grab this rifle, it turns on. 0.5 MOA click adjustments. You can see on top you got brightness settings, and with that automatic on-off feature, you're going to see advertised 40,000 hours of battery life, which is pretty cool. And these things are not expensive, guys. I mean, they're kind of in that 150 range, which for everything that this does, and I'm comparing this to some good Holosons and some of the others, Primary Arms, very impressed. Very impressed. This thing, when you pick it up, you know that you're holding a serious rifle. It's not light. It's a couple pounds heavier than AR. This weighs in well over 8 pounds, and just has some neat features. Now, some of these later versions came with a folding stock. Personally, not a big folding stock guy. I've had them. I think they look cool. I think they're very aesthetically cool. But I'm not going to fire these from a folding stock, so all it does is give you maybe a little bit more portability. You can see right here that this has an AR style attachment for a multi-position stock. This is the original SIG. And I will say this, You could put a folding adapter and put a folding stock on this, but in my opinion, you're just introducing another part that's probably not going to work. Does not have a shell deflector, and that's reflected right here. Now, this has not been shot a lot prior to me getting it. I believe at one point this was a law enforcement or a SWAT turn-in. What I'm seeing here, though, this is just shells coming out. Could be that it's a gas issue. You do have an adjustable gas block right here, and you adjust it simply by pushing in this detent and turning it. And the purpose of the adjustable gas block isn't like it is with some firearms where, depending on the ammo that you're using and things of that nature, you need to adjust the gas pressure. Philosophy here is real simple. If your gas system gets dirty, you can crank it open more and keep shooting. So that's a very, very much a military kind of thought process. A couple other things about this. This came with these flip-up sights. Is a blade that flips up right here as part of the gas block. And then the back, it's integral right here, is what's called a popsicle stick sight. And I'll pull that up for you if I can do it without busting off my fingernail. I did, by the way, shoot with this before I put the dot on, and it's nothing special, okay? And this is not co-witnessed with this optic, okay? So that's one thing to note, because I know a lot of guys are going to ask, how does that work? You know, if you need a sighting system, this gives you a crude one. This is something I'm definitely not going to tell you from a sight picture standpoint. It makes a lot of sense. But I think that this particular firearm was most definitely developed with the thought of an optic in mind. So, you know, you could probably put anything you want on it. What I like about this being more of an AK than an AR in a lot of respects, is just the fact that, you know, you've got that positive side charging. There's a reliability factor there. You can see this is somewhat of a sealed system. Kind of reminds me of the Galil that I owned at one time. This is sealed off. There's a little piece of rubber right here, if you're looking at it, that prevents anything from getting inside the bolt. And having shot a couple of 100 rounds through this today, as usual, you know, you expect to open up the chamber and see a lot of crud in there, and you don't. And the main reason you don't is because this is not direct impingement like the AR platform, where the blast is introduced into the upper receiver. Instead, there's a piston rod, long stroke, that's traveling all the way back. So that's the difference. You know, you are carrying around a heavy rifle. I'm a relatively big guy. That's not a problem for me. It balances well, and from that standpoint, that's what I'm looking for. Did a number of double taps, half mag dumps, things like that, and one of the things I noticed was this handguard, and this style is called the fish gill, okay? And it's got Picatinny rails on the bottom. It's got a couple up front. You know, aesthetically, it looks a little dated, mostly because, you know, it is. We're looking at a design that's coming up on 15 years old. And I thought, well, this is something I'd want to change. But it's kind of growing on me. And the other thing I noticed is zero heat buildup at all, at any time, just firing this rifle pretty much continuously today. So that kind of makes me want to say, well, do I really want to change something that's working perfectly? You know, it's fairly snug. You don't have a lot of wobble or wiggle. And the same goes for between this upper receiver and lower receiver. Now, the upper receiver is steel, and it's got some ribs that are welded into it. These were made in Exeter, New Hampshire, as you can see. So you've got an alloy lower, and your upper, which, by the way, is the piece where your serial number is stamped. Your upper is made out of steel. So these match together really well, which is cool. Couple other points. Somewhere in the early stages of these particular rifles, there were a lot of Swiss parts from coming from the Swiss factory, and over time they kind of phase those out. And this one in particular, based on the serial number, probably doesn't have a lot of Swiss parts. You know, from a function standpoint, I can tell you, I didn't know where they were made. I just know this thing works and has the feeling that it's not a rifle that's going to fail me. Today I shot steel case ammo through it, Tula, just really cheap stuff. I fired some better stuff, some heavier grain, hollow tip, brass case, 223, 556. This thing is very, very forgiving in terms of the ammo that you use, and I like that. I like that a lot. I know some ARs can be real picky, especially when you get into the steel cased ammo. You see a lot of comments about that, and that's not the case with this guy. So differences from the Swiss version. The Swiss version has an integral flash hider. This one right here has your standard thread pitch on the end of the barrel that we're used to with the AR, and this has a bird cage on it. No need to change that. You also had on the Swiss, you had the folding that had kind of like more of a skeleton stock. Now this one, just looking at it, it's a little bit hokey, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't feel this temptation to switch stuff out and make it look like something that it's not. I think, like I said, it's kind of growing on me. But you'll notice a couple things. With an AR, the upper receiver, that top Picatinny rail is integral, molded, or forged, however you want to call it, as part of the upper receiver. Here, it's screwed on. So you've got aluminum rail on top of a steel receiver. And they had some early problems with them. The ones they had the problems with were called the 4-screw models. This one you can't tell because the middle screw's covered up with this optic, but this is a 3-screw model. And apparently not a lot of issues with those. But everything about this is cool. Different things. This trigger here, if you look at it, what you're really doing is pushing back on a plunger back here. So you push back just like that, okay? It's a little bit of a different feel. It takes a little bit getting used to, but once you do, you realize it's kind of like a 2-stage trigger, and it's got a really easy reset, which made doing mag dumps and things like that fairly easy. Like I said, it takes AR-15 mags, and every one I put in just easily pops in. P-mags, you know, these metal mags, aluminum mags, things like that. You don't have issues. Hey, do I have 30 rounds in there? Makes it kind of hard to get in with the bolt closed. None of that stuff. So very forgiving. In a lot of ways, this reminds me of the Galil offerings, which take the best parts of an AK, which make them more of a sealed system, which is going to be more resistant to dirt and dust and things like that. But I was expecting, with this piston-driven bolt and everything else, that it was going to be less accurate, perhaps, than an AR. And we'll show some target results in a little bit. You'll see that's not the case at all. So really pumped up about this rifle. It's just a cool rifle. These things, I think when these were coming out new were upwards of high $1,800–1,900, couple $1,000. So they're not cheap. Other downsides would be the fact that unlike an AR, you don't have a ton of aftermarket accessories. In fact, they're hard to find. I saw one replacement rail that's made for this that's you can still get is over $325 just to have aluminum instead of what I consider to be a well-made polymer handguard that is pretty snug. You can see the gas tube right here. It's where your piston travels. It's not really a gas tube. This is a cold hammer forged barrel. I do believe it is chrome lined. Again, this is made to be a highly dependable weapon, which also turns out to be pretty accurate, which is cool. But everything about this is exciting. I'm going to show you my 100-yard target and use some of this steel case 223/55 grain Tula, which is not known to be great ammo. It goes bang, and you can kind of see all over the place. And this was seated at a bench. So there's 5 shots with that. And then I switched to this Frontier 62 grain, which I've heard that this is a rifle that likes heavier bullets. These particular ones have Hornady bullets, and this is 5.56. That price is current, by the way, and I've seen worse. And this is what we did at 100 yards with the red dot. So you got a little bit of a flyer here. Otherwise, you see this is shooting just about an inch MOA, which isn't bad. But what a difference ammo makes. You can hear the wind going in the background. It was a windy day. I did need to make a correction, a few clicks to the right, and made that correction afterwards. But I thought that was amazing, the difference in quality between one brand of ammo to the next. And again, this stuff goes bang. You're in close quarters. It's going to do the job. This stuff goes bang better. So to take this thing down, it's got a captive pin very similar to what you see with an AR. In fact, same type of setup. But on the front, it's a hinge. And this is a pin that has a slotted screw head on both sides. And so you need to turn them opposite directions to completely take the receiver off, the top receiver off. I'm not going to do that today. What I'm going to do is take out this captive pin. It needs a little bit of a tap to get that going. And you'll see, like I said, it's very much just like that captive AR pin, and then allows you to open this up. Now, in order to take this down, you're going to see right here, there's a little area you press right here, and then you pull the charging handle out. So basically, you just push up on that, charging handle comes right out. Now that's a piece that some guys probably aren't going to like. Hey, what if it goes flying off? I don't think there's a history of that happening, but it is a little bit different. But then once you open this up, it gives you the ability simply to slide out your bolt. And I'll give you a view of that right there. Your bolt rides right there. And interestingly enough, kind of looks like an AK in a lot of ways, as you see right here. And this rotates out, and here's your bolt. And some guys like to use grease. I am a big fan of this stuff right here. Maintains its viscosity in a lot of cold weather. You can ask me how I know. I live in Minnesota. So you have your firing pin, which is spring-loaded right here. It's not floating. And it cams around in this groove right here. And as you can see, it's not very dirty. It's not very dirty at all. Now, my understanding is that if this were a Swiss bolt carrier, it would actually be black instead of this light color. So I think this is an American-made part. Don't see any kind of stampings or marks on here that indicate that this is Swiss. Some of it's 922 stuff, but here you can see it's got a very aggressive right here extractor. Like I said, these guys aren't made to fail, that's for sure. Taking a look right down the barrel. And you can see that, like I said, this is a steel piece. And you can see where this bolt carrier is going to travel. Very much like an AK design, this has two lugs on it. So if you look at this little laser right here, this part right here is your piston. And we'll take a better look in here. You can look down into the chamber. This is not, you know, like M4 feed ramps or any of that is not needed to make this thing work. And you can kind of see just right down here. There's your upper receiver. Like I said, it's steel. And these rails are actually, as you can tell, welded in. Looks like they did a pretty good job. The trigger is its own creation. It's somewhat AK-like, but it looks like it has some wound coils of metal to act as the spring. And there's the back of the receiver. So as you can see, there's not, you know, a buffer tube or anything like we're used to with the ARs. It's got the outward appearance because it's got a nicely staked castle nut holding this tube on, but that tube only serves one purpose in this case, and that purpose is to be a 4-position adjustable platform for your buttstock. But I just thought I'd give you guys a look at the innards. And those of you that have seen my prior videos where we go inside AKs and things like that, this looks a lot more like an AK than it does an AR, that's for sure. Kind of reminds me, like I said, of the Galil in a lot of ways. So that's kind of the deal with this rifle. I know some of you that are into these types of firearms are going to understand why I'm excited about it. It's a high function, super reliable firearm that shoots what at least used to be a very commonly affordable round in the 5.56. Right now, that's not the case. Sitting here in November 2020, let's hope that changes soon. I'm starting to see a few more offerings show up. Prices are not continuing to go up, and like I said, let's hope that we don't have things happen that's going to change that. But this right here is, as I stated at the outset, a firearm that I'm very excited about. I see myself shooting a lot of rounds through this. Gonna do some different things, magnified optics, you name it. Like the AR platform, it's real easy to switch out what you've got sitting on that top rail in terms of those kind of possibilities. But just super excited, and I'm going to definitely give you guys an update when I get some more rounds through this, let you know if there's any kind of failures or anything to that. But you know, when you can slam Tula ammo and do mag dumps without a hiccup, you know you've got something that's pretty good. And of course, I am a big believer in this piston system. The sacrifice, like I said, is weight. You're carrying around a little bit more weight. It's not a big deal to me, but for some folks it might be. So if you're a person that wants as light a firearm as you can possibly get, this might not be for you. You might want to stick with the AR platform. They don't make these anymore. SIG does have their patrol rifle and things of that nature. But this particular version has not been made for a number of years. Who knows what kind of offerings you'll see going forward. But I really look forward to telling you more about this rifle, and I appreciate you watching this longish video today. Had a lot to say about this, and as always, appreciate you watching. This is Dr. Drake 63. Want to thank you, and take care, keep shooting. We'll see you next time.